My name is Tao, and I am 60 years old. And the night my own son looked me in the eye and said, I didn't invite you to dinner, was the night everything I believed about family changed. But the truth is, that night didn't just break my heart. It also taught my son a lesson he would remember for the rest of his life. The call. It was a quiet Friday evening. The sun was slowly setting behind the houses in my neighborhood, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. I was sitting on my old wooden porch chair, holding a warm cup of tea in my hands. At my age, 60 years old, evenings like this had become my favorite time of day. Life had slowed down. The rush of responsibilities had faded. All that remained were memories and the people you loved. Then my phone rang. When I looked down at the screen, I saw a name that always made me smile. Daniel. My son. I answered immediately. Hello, son. Hey, Dad, he said quickly. His voice sounded a little distracted. What's going on? I asked warmly. Well, Melissa and I are hosting a dinner tonight, he said. Some of my colleagues are coming, my boss too. That's wonderful, I said with pride. Your boss coming to dinner means he respects you. Daniel laughed nervously. Yeah, something like that. I waited a moment. Do you want me to bring anything? I asked. Maybe dessert. There was silence. Then he said the words I never expected to hear from my own child. Actually, Dad, I didn't invite you. For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood him. I'm sorry. It's just, this is more of a formal dinner, he explained awkwardly. Melissa wants everything to look professional. His voice lowered slightly. I just think it might be better if it's only our circle tonight. Those words felt heavier than anything I had carried in my 60 years. But I didn't let him hear the pain in my voice. I understand, I said quietly. We'll get together soon, okay? He added quickly. Of course, I replied. The call ended. And suddenly the evening felt colder. The life I built for him. I sat there on the porch for a long time. Across the yard, the old oak tree swayed gently in the wind. That tree had been planted the day Daniel was born. Back then, life was very different. My wife, May, and I were young and full of dreams. But when Daniel was only 8 years old, May passed away after a sudden illness. That was the hardest day of my life. Suddenly, I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was a single father raising a little boy who needed everything: love, guidance, stability. I promised myself one thing that day. Daniel would never feel like he had less because he lost his mother. So I worked harder than I ever had. During the day, I worked at a hardware supply warehouse. At night, I drove a delivery truck across the city. Some nights I slept only 3 hours. But every morning, I still woke up early to make Daniel breakfast before school. When he needed help with homework, I sat beside him even when my eyes were burning with exhaustion. When he dreamed of going to college, I saved every dollar I could. When he got accepted, I cried like a child. Not because it was expensive, but because I knew his future would be brighter than mine ever had been. The house. Years passed. Daniel graduated, found a good job, and eventually married Melissa. They were young and ambitious. When they decided to buy a beautiful suburban house, the bank approved them, but the mortgage was high. Daniel looked worried when he told me, "Dad, I'm not sure we can manage the payments every month." I simply smiled. "Don't worry," I said. And quietly, without telling anyone else, I began sending a monthly mortgage check to help them. I never told his friends. I never asked for appreciation. Helping my son stand strong in life was enough reward. Or at least, I believed it was. The walk. That night after the call, I couldn't sit still. So I went for a walk. The cool air helped clear my thoughts. Without realizing it, my steps slowly led me toward Daniel's neighborhood. His house was bright with lights. Expensive cars lined the driveway. Through the large living room window, I could see guests laughing and holding glasses of wine. Everyone looked polished and confident. For a moment, I imagined walking through that door. Not as a guest, just as a father proud of his son. But I stayed outside. Then I heard voices through the slightly open window. Melissa's voice. "I'm actually glad Tao didn't come tonight," she said with a small laugh. Someone asked why. She replied casually, "He's nice, but he's very simple. You know, it would feel awkward with Daniel's boss here." A few people laughed softly. Then Daniel spoke. "Yeah, Dad means well, but he doesn't really fit into this environment." The laughter continued. And that was the moment something inside me quietly broke. The decision. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel rage. What I felt was something much calmer. Understanding. I walked home slowly. When I reached my kitchen table, I opened my financial notebook. Inside it was a list of monthly expenses. At the bottom was a small note. Daniel mortgage support. Every month. Without fail. I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and called the bank. "I'd like to cancel the automatic mortgage transfer," I said politely. "Is everything okay?" the banker asked. "Yes," I replied. "Everything is finally clear." The morning panic. The next morning, my phone rang again. This time Daniel sounded frantic. "Dad." "Yes, son." "The bank said the mortgage support payment didn't come through." "That's correct," I replied calmly. "You forgot to send it." "No. I canceled it." Silence filled the phone line. "Why?" he asked. I spoke gently. "Because last night I learned something important." "What?" "If I'm not welcome at your dinner table, then I probably shouldn't be paying for the house it's in." His breathing slowed. "You heard that?" "Yes." There was a long pause. Then his voice cracked slightly. "Dad, I'm sorry." The visit. That afternoon, Daniel came to my house. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Dad, I didn't realize how cruel that sounded," he said. I poured us both some tea. "Sometimes we say things when we're trying to impress others," I said. "I wasn't thinking." "I know." He looked around the small house he had grown up in. "Everything I have, you gave me the chance to build it." I smiled gently. "All I ever wanted was for you to succeed." And I forgot the person who helped me succeed. The new dinner. A week later, Daniel called again. "Dad, we're having another dinner next Friday." "Oh." "Yes." He paused. "But this time, you're the most important guest." I laughed softly. "I'm just your father." "That's exactly why." The night everything changed. The next Friday, I walked to his house again. But this time, the door opened wide before I even knocked. Daniel greeted me with a warm smile. "Everyone," he announced to the room, "this is my father Tao. He's 60 years old and he's the strongest man I know." The room became quiet. Then people began smiling and shaking my hand. Melissa approached me carefully. "I'm truly sorry for what I said before," she whispered. I nodded. "Let's begin again." Moral of the story. Life often teaches us lessons in quiet moments. Success can build beautiful houses, but respect is what builds a real home. Never forget the people who stood beside you when you had nothing. Because one day, you might realize the most valuable thing in your life was the person you almost pushed away. My name is Tao. I am 60 years old, And that night my son learned something that no amount of money could ever buy. Gratitude.